Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. Now you are playing with power. Well, that is if you're lucky enough to get one. If you didn't already know, the NES Classic or Nintendo Classic or NES Mini has now been officially released. However, as customary with pretty much almost every popular Nintendo product, it's pretty much impossible to get. If you look online, you see news articles where people are basically buying the systems if they were able to get one, and then reselling it for $1,000 or more on eBay and so forth. It was pretty hard to get, and I'm positive it's going to be a super hot seller. So, what is the Nintendo Classic or the NES Classic in this case? Well, in short, it's basically a miniaturized version of the original Nintendo Entertainment System, and it's got games in there. So it's basically a miniature NES that isn't a full Nintendo, and it's an emulator. That's really what it is in the end. Okay, so you cannot use your old Nintendo cartridges because of the fact that it isn't a full Nintendo. And it does come with an original, in terms of actual design, Nintendo controller that looks identical and it functions identically to the original, much loved Nintendo controller. However, the actual cord that goes to the system, it is not the same type of port that was used in the original, and at the same time, it's much shorter. And what do you get with your NES Classic? Well, you get 30 games, right, built into the system. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like you're going to be able to get more games than that. And so these games that they have in here, these are classics, not just Nintendo games made by Nintendo, but other third-party games that are very popular, as you can see here. And a lot of these are going to be familiar to a lot of people who remember playing the Nintendo or having it at their house. So really great collection of classics that you could relive your memories. And then if you have kids that don't even know what the original NES Classic is, this is a great way to introduce them into the original Nintendo world. And a lot of these games I finally remember, and I definitely agree with. But some of which, like Super C, I like Super C, but I prefer the original Contra. And Gradius, that was fun. Ghosts and Goblins, that was so hard. I really only played the new ones on the Genesis. So, what else do you get with this? $60. Well, you also get additional features, software features, such as the CRT monitor. In terms of, it simulates an old CRT monitor. It offers different resolutions, like a 4:3, the actual original resolution. And also, whatever other Nintendo perks that Nintendo would like you to have, it's in there as well. And also, the emulation is perfect, in other words. I mean, because it is made by Nintendo, the emulation here, specifically with sound, it's going to be perfect. Okay. So, which leads me to this whole topic today. Why would you even get the Nintendo Classic when there are so many emulators out there on every single platform, and more importantly, you don't have to pay a single penny, and you don't have to wait in line to get this system, because I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to get this until after Christmas. That's for sure. And on top of it, this is limited to whatever games that Nintendo has put in the system. There is no Ethernet connection, no wireless, there's no SD card slot, micro SD card slot. So you can't expand this. If you wanted to, you couldn't. And even when they've had people take this apart, everything is soldered on in here into a single board. So the chances of you being able to hack this is probably pretty small. However, I'm pretty sure there's somebody who's going to figure that out. But it goes back to the question, why would you even have to do that if there are so many great emulators out there? And if you've seen my channel, you know that I love emulators, and I play a lot of emulators. And I just want to go back right here to Amazon. There's absolutely no systems available. And obviously, for emulator systems, if you didn't want to download it on your phone or so forth, you could buy them. There are tons of them that have way more games. Okay, so that goes back to the whole point. even if you didn't want to spend the time to download emulators, you could buy these systems that already have tons of games already built in, and you could get them for, well, some of them aren't cheaper, but you're going to get a lot more games out of them. And you've probably seen these emulator system games even in probably places like grocery stores, or gas stations or Walmart, so they are already available. And then let's go to the emulators, which I was talking about. Mame is my favorite emulator. This is available on every single system, on every single platform, and this is what I use to do all my emulator mobile game, videos that I do on my channel. And then if you wanted to get into the emulation scene even more, there are such things such as RetroArch, which allows you to play games on multiple platforms, and not just in the arcades, PlayStation. And this RetroArch actually covers every single platform that I know of, all the main ones. And it's available on every single platform. However, it's not very user friendly, and it also has additional tweaks that you could do as well. And then, if you really want to get into the emulation scene even more, there are really beautiful, beautiful front ends that will allow you to put this on your big screen, and or if you could build your own arcade cabinet and have an amazingly modern, professional looking experience. So, it's amazing what you can do here. See, this is actually how the emulator front end looks. So it looks amazing. Okay, so there are a lot of options out there if you wanted to play retro games and you wanted even more robust gaming experience. So why would you even get this NES Classic? And my strong belief is, number one, Nintendo. Okay, Nintendo as a brand, as a company, they are masters at selling you their products. I mean, they have had some failures, of course, but if you think back to any of their hot sellers, the Nintendo Wii, Nintendo 64, the Super Nintendo, and more recently Amiibos, which isn't really a system, but they sold a ton of them. The Nintendo 3DS, and it goes on and on. They know how to sell with their brand and their properties. And when people are buying Nintendo, they are buying the brand. Okay, even though they could get so many more games for cheaper or for free, if they just simply went ahead and spent a little bit of time to go get these emulators and get the corresponding ROMs. And the second thing is nostalgia. Okay, that's the main reason why I love retro gaming, is not only for the nostalgia aspect, but also the history aspect of it all too, because video games are part of history. Those are the main reasons why I love emulation and retro games, because there's really no other way for you to get these old systems unless you were a classic game collector, and that's pretty difficult for you to get all these games in the old systems. So the branding of Nintendo is the number one thing. And then second is nostalgia, and nostalgia plays a big part in a lot of entertainment properties that we consume today. And also, Nintendo isn't the only one who is really going to get back into this whole thing in a more official way. Another company is Tectoy. And Tectoy is a company out in Brazil. And the Mega Drive, or the Sega Genesis as it was known here in the US, was really, really popular in Latin America and in the UK and in Europe. Mainly in the Latin America and the UK. It was more popular there than it was here in the United States, even though it was really popular in the United States. And also, as a matter of fact, the Sega Master System was extremely, extremely popular in Brazil. And the company that actually made them officially was Tectoy, and I'm positive they were the same company that made the Mega Drives down there. So what they are going to do is re-release this Mega Drive. I mean, they are going to build it with the original specs, I'm pretty sure, as close as possible. But it's also going to have an SD card slot as well. So it's going to offer you something that, the NES Classic won't. And pricing wise, I'm not sure what the actual conversion rate is, but I think it's going to be about $130. So it is going to be more expensive than the NES Classic. However, it's going to be able to do more, but this is going to be officially made by the people who made the original Mega Drive. So it's quite interesting, the state of, the emulation scene, and I really think that the Nintendo Classic, it is really going to bring about a resurgence, maybe, in the whole emulation scene, or maybe a more interest into it because of the fact that this really does run on the emulator underneath. It might not be any of these, it might not be Mame, or it might. We're not really sure. But the fact of the matter is, it's really going to bring emulation, or more to the point, retro games, I think, make it even more popular to the mainstream because of the fact that it's people are going to want to reminisce, and maybe they're going to probably think like, well, what are some other options because I cannot get a Nintendo Classic and my kids really want it. So those are my thoughts on this whole release of the NES Classic, and really what they mean versus the emulators that are out there. I myself, obviously, I'm going to prefer the emulators, specifically Mame, but there are so many other emulators out there. And if you wanted to spend the time, I think you could have a much better experience and have way more options and control to enjoy your old retro games versus getting the NES Classic. And like I said, if you really love Nintendo, you actually want something made by them, then by all means, get the NES Classic whenever it's available because I really do think it's a really, really cool, inventive uh, device that will bring you back to those days. However, I do definitely want more games. I want more control over it. And, if it's on that system, I'm limited to those 30 games. So those are my thoughts on the Nintendo NES Classic versus the emulators out there. I prefer emulators. But if you had any thoughts on either one of these, be sure to leave your ideas in the comments area below. And don't forget, if you did like these videos, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and don't forget, I am on Snapchat at Geek Outdoors. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com. And I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.